Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I am the Bucks believer. I am of the opinion that the Bucks defense could carry them to an NBA championship in this upcoming playoffs. That might seem like a bit of an outrageous statement to make about a unit that ranks just 10th in the league in cleaning the glasses defensive rating metric that factors out garbage time, but due to some pieces the Bucks have acquired that have still taken some time to gel, I think that there's a ceiling that is ridiculously high with this defense, and if they can click at the right time, it could take them very, very far in this year's playoffs. At the trade deadline, the Bucks traded for PJ Tucker from the Houston Rockets, and in this past offseason, they acquired Drew Holiday from the New Orleans Pelicans. Each of those two players allow the Bucks to switch towards a more switch-heavy scheme and shy away from the drop coverage that has been so prevalent in Mike Budenholzer's system over the past couple of seasons. Tucker brings a switchable big option that has a ridiculous amount of lower body strength that allows him to both stand strong while guarding some of the biggest players in the NBA despite standing at 6'5", and allows him to move quick enough to keep smaller guards in front of him, allowing him to essentially guard any position 1 through 5, although he's not the best option against big guys like Joel Embiid. Drew Holiday is a big guard who is strong enough in his core to really do a great job of defending larger players, as his core strength allows him to bang with those guys in the post and not allow them to push him around as they usually would do when they have a mismatch against an opposing guard. Holiday can take on some really difficult matchups against players like LeBron James and Kevin Durant, and we've seen him do so to great effect over the past couple months of this NBA season. These guys make the Bucks scheme a lot more versatile as they're not forced to play as much of the drop coverage with Brook Lopez dropping into the paint on pick and roll as they have over the past couple seasons. The Bucks have also thrown in some occasional zone looks that have been very rare, but when they have done so, they've played Giannis and Chris at the top. I think that this has a chance to force a lot of turnovers because of the length that those two players provide, but in the end, the Bucks surrender too many three-pointers for this to truly be a viable option for them to lean towards in the playoffs. In addition to those different looks, the Bucks could also use Brook Lopez in a different pick and roll coverage than his usual drop scheme. They could instead have him move up and guard at the level of the screen and cut off opposing ball handlers much closer to the three-point line instead of allowing them to get into the paint as the Bucks have done in seasons past. They've done this on a few occasions this season, mostly against high-level shooters like Damian Lillard and Steph Curry, but if the Bucks want to see bigger doses of Lopez in this postseason than I think most Bucks fans are expecting, they're going to have to adjust the way in which he defends. In the end, though, I think that they're mostly going to either be playing a scheme where Lopez is in the game and is dropping back a little bit, not quite as heavily as he has in years past, but still not quite guarding at the level of the screen, or they're going to be running the switching scheme that we've seen them try to iron out over the past couple of weeks. There are still games where they commit a lot of mistakes in that switching scheme and don't look like they know what to switch and what not to switch. Against the San Antonio Spurs, they continually allowed the young Spurs to get a lot of mismatches. The same happened against the Houston Rockets, and that led to Kevin Porter Jr. scoring 50 points while making step-back three-pointer after step-back three-pointer over Brook Lopez. If they can figure out that switching scheme, though, it will allow them to be far more effective on defense, and I think that has a chance to be the best option for them to go to when it comes to defensive schemes. The next thing that I want to talk about is the 4 defensive factors. It is in the belief of the statistical basketball community that there are 4 key statistics that can really point out how effective a team is on offense and on defense. The 4 factors are offensive rebound rate, free throw rate, opponent effective field goal percentage, and opponent turnover percentage. Let's start by talking about opponent offensive rebound rate, where the Bucks have been quite good this season as they rank 3rd. They allow opponents to grab just 23% of their missed shots, and that is among the best marks in the entire league. This has been an issue at times for the Bucks over the season, as there was one game against the Clippers in particular in which I remember them surrendering a lot of offensive rebounds to Ivica Zubac. So it's not like this strength is something that the Bucks are super incredible at. It's more like something that they aren't going to get beat on come playoff time. Another area in which the Bucks have ranked quite well this season is an opponent free throw rate, as they allow opponents to make just 15.4 free throws for every 100 field goals the opponent attempts. That is among the best in the league, and the Bucks really do a nice job of avoiding fouling. That is a large reason why their defense has ranked in the top 10, despite coming in quite poorly in the next two statistics I'm going to talk about. They rank just 15th in opponent effective field goal percentage, and that's largely because of the amount of open threes that their defense surrenders. And they also rank a pretty meager 23rd in opponent turnover rate, as they do not do such a great job of creating chaos on the defensive end, and they don't come away with as many steals as they did when Jason Kidd was the coach of this team, when they ranked in the top 5 of opponent turnover rate year after year. This season, they come in at just 12.9%, and while that has gone on an uptick, I believe, over the past couple of weeks, as there have been games where the Bucks have had double-digit steals. Jrue Holiday ranks among the steal leaders in the NBA, and he alone is capable of coming away with 4 or 5 steal games occasionally. However, this isn't something that's going to win Bucks games. So, in general, the 4 factors are favorable in opponent offensive rebound rate and opponent free throw rate, while not being so good in opponent effective field goal percentage and opponent turnover rate. With all of that being said, let's talk about some potential playoff matchups and the ways in which the Bucks could defend the 4 Eastern Conference teams that I believe have a legit chance of really challenging them in the playoffs. With all due respect to the New York Knicks and Boston Celtics, in today's video I'm going to be talking about the Miami Heat, Atlanta Hawks, Philadelphia 76ers, and Brooklyn Nets. The Miami Heat are the team that the Bucks play the soonest out of these 4 teams, as they play them in their second last game of the season this Saturday. That game will give us a larger hint at how the Bucks plan on defending Miami in the playoffs, but my best guess would be that they would put Jrue Holiday on Jimmy Butler and Chris Middleton on Duncan Robinson. Middleton can use his length to chase Robinson around the three-point line and prevent him from getting open looks from downtown, and Jrue Holiday can use his strength and aggression on Jimmy Butler and prevent him from getting a lot of the easy baskets that he was able to get when defended by Wesley Matthews and Eric Bledsoe for large portions of last year's series. I think the Bucks would probably start with Brook Lopez playing the 5 and defending Bam Adebayo, but we saw Bam have a lot of success with Lopez defending him last year, and the Heat were also able to break down Lopez whenever he got switched onto their guards. So I think that it's most likely that in a Heat series by the end, we would see the Bucks closing with a lot of small ball lineups where they would switch everything. Most likely a lineup consisting of Jrue Holiday, Dante DiVincenzo, Chris Middleton, PJ Tucker, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Against the Atlanta Hawks, I think the Bucks would more than likely start with Jrue Holiday defending Trae Young. Holiday is one of the 5 or so best perimeter defenders in the league, so putting him on the opponent's best scorer, especially when that is a scorer that plays at the same position as Holiday, seems like a really solid option. I think the Bucks would probably play a lot of drop coverage in the pick and roll in this series, as they would really want to force Trae Young to make floaters in the mid-range and prevent him from throwing lobs to Clint Capella, which has been something he has done quite frequently this season. If that fails, then the Bucks could start switching, and due to the dearth of perimeter defenders that this Bucks squad has in Middleton, DiVincenzo, Holiday, Antetokounmpo, Tucker, the list goes on with Connaughton, you have a lot of options in that switching scheme. So in the end, I think the Bucks could have a lot of success defending the Hawks as well. The Philadelphia 76ers would be a bit more of a challenging matchup, especially because there are a multitude, they're a very different team than any other in the NBA, because they are focused around a big man who spends a lot of his time posting up. Other than Nikola Jokic with the Denver Nuggets, there's almost no other center who spends as much time posting up than Joel Embiid. I think the Bucks would likely put Brook Lopez on Embiid just to have the biggest body possible on Joel to start off this series. And as we saw in a game against the Sixers earlier this month, or I guess that might have been last month, but Lopez can have some success guarding Embiid as he limited the Cameroonian big man to, I think, about 20 points on 17 shots. So that's certainly good defense by Brook. The Bucks would probably put Drew Holiday on Ben Simmons, Chris Middleton on Tobias Harris, and Giannis Antetokounmpo on Danny Green to allow Giannis to play in that rover helper role that we've seen him do so frequently over the past couple of seasons. Though Embiid would probably see a lot of Lopez in this series, but I also think that the Bucks could go with a lineup where PJ Tucker is in the front court with Giannis, and we see PJ taking on that matchup. He had some success guarding Embiid in a game earlier this season. He did have a bit of trouble with fouling Joel, but in general, I think that he's probably the second best option that the Bucks have when it comes to defending Joel. The Bucks against the Brooklyn Nets are a matchup that we've seen a couple times over the past month. They largely are going to try to put Chris Middleton on Kevin Durant, Drew Holiday on Kyrie Irving, and with James Harden being back, I think that matchup probably falls into the hands of Dante DiVincenzo or PJ Tucker. Alternatively, the Bucks could put Giannis on KD, Drew on Kyrie, and Chris on Harden. Either of those would be a good option. I think that they're more likely to put Giannis on Joe Harris, I guess, and allow him to be that helper defender, but they also could go with him as the primary defender on Durant. I think in this series we would see a lot of switching regardless, as the Bucks have an equal amount of perimeter defenders as the Nets do perimeter scorers, and they'd pretty much be comfortable with just about any one of those defenders on the Nets perimeter players. So we'd see a lot of switching, a lot of small ball, and I do think that the Giannis on KD matchup could be a potential trump card for the Bucks on the defensive end of the court if they were to see the Brooklyn Nets in this year's playoffs. This video was a lot, so if you made it all the way through to here, I thank you for watching. I'm sure that it was a little rough around the edges, but in general, I think I was able to get my points about the Bucks defense across. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, especially if you are a fellow Bucks believer. This is the place for you. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.